So today we're going to start chapter 1. We're going to talk about points, lines, and planes. And all this stuff you might have had to some extent in your other classes, okay? Sometimes I'm not real sure how specific they are in teaching you how to name things, so I want to make sure that we go over that today. But your point, your line, and your plane are actually undefined terms. Because there's not just a true definition. They can only be explained by using examples and descriptions, okay? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to first of all talk about the point. And a point is a location. Like you graph points all the time on the coordinate plane, okay? And you can just have a point that you draw. Put a dot there. You can have a triangle, and the sides of the triangle intersect at a point. When you name a point, you use a capital letter, okay? And your point has no actual size. It's just a location, okay? Point on a map. And you use that capital letter to name it. Then you have your line, okay? And your line extends indefinitely in both directions. Even though you can't really see it, it goes on forever and ever and ever in both directions. You put the arrows at the end of the line, and that is what indicates that it goes on forever. Your line has no thickness, it has no width, okay? And in between any 2 points, there is exactly one line. So if you have 2 points, exactly one line can be drawn between those 2 points. When you name a line, there's a couple of ways that you can do it. Sometimes they're nice, and they give us this lowercase cursive letter that represents the whole line, okay? And so that is one way to name it, okay, with a lowercase cursive letter, if it's available. Sometimes that's not available. So the other way that you can name a line is by using 2 points that lie on the line, and just 2 points. And so you would use those 2 points, and this would be line AB, and you have to put a little mini line on top of it. If you don't, it means something else that we're going to talk about later, okay? The order in which you put those letters doesn't matter. You could reverse them, okay? Even if there was another point, say there was a C on that line, you could use that instead of the A and the B, okay? So you could do AC or BC, but you never use more than 2, okay? There could be 15 points on that line. You wouldn't want to use all 15. You're just going to pick 2 to name the line, okay? All right, so that's how you name a line. Then we have a plane. And a plane is a flat surface that extends indefinitely in all directions, like the ceiling, the floor, okay? It goes on forever, even though they kind of, in real life, end. A good example of a plane that some of you experience. How many of you play football? Or have played? Okay, what makes a touchdown? You have to go in the end zone. Does the ball have to touch the ground on the other side of the goal line? No. What does it have to do? Cross the plane, right? If you have your goal line, there's this imaginary plane that comes up in there, okay? So if you're running, you could hop over a tackle and just put the ball and break the plane, right? And that's a touchdown, okay? So that's an imaginary plane that we use in football. Okay, there's exactly one plane through any 3 points not on the same line. So if you have 3 points not on the same line, that's called non-collinear. We'll talk about that in a minute. That makes a plane. When you name a plane, there's a couple of ways to name it also. Sometimes they're nice, and they give us this capital cursive letter. So I could call this plane P. But they don't always do that. So the other way is to use 3 non-collinear points, 3 points that do not lie on the same line. So like A, B, C. Or you could do BAC or CBA, okay? But 3 points not on the same line. It's called non-collinear. Okay, so that's how you name a plane. Now, I've kind of been talking about collinear and non-collinear. Okay, collinear points are points that lie on the same line. So like A, B, and C. Those are collinear points. Non-collinear points would be something like this. P, Q, and R. Those are non-collinear. Linear points, non-collinear points. Lots of vocabulary in this first chapter. You guys got to know it, okay? Then we have coplanar and non-coplanar. They're exactly the way that they sound. Coplanar points lie in the same plane. So here, let's say I've got plane P, okay, and these points are coplanar because they lie on that plane. But if you were to talk about non-coplanar, it might look something like this. Now, there's a disclaimer on my art. I'm horrible. Okay, so this is A, B, and C. Those are coplanar. But let's say we made this into a pyramid. Okay? This point B up here is in a different plane than these, because all of these lie on this big plane Q. Okay? So, it's kind of like this. This is a triangular pyramid like I tried to draw. Okay, here's A, B, and C, and then we've got D that's up here. Okay, so collectively, those 4 points are considered non-coplanar. Okay? Questions before I go to the next page? Okay. Alright, so we're going to name a line containing point A. Name a line containing point A. Okay, that's the easiest way. L, right? Okay, but what if that L wasn't there? How else could I name that line? Okay, AB with a little mini line over it. Very good. Okay, would I ever use more than 2 letters? No, I could name it CD. And you don't have to name all of these. I'm just kind of talking about it. You could do BD, AD, several different things. Okay. All right. Let's look at the next one. Name a plane containing point C. What'd you say? N. Okay, good. Plane N. How else could I name that? Cameron. AC what? I think you said AC.
AC like a line over it?
No, that would be a line. So we're naming a plane. Yes. ABE would work. Now, why did you use E and not C? They can't be in the same line, okay? So you've got to use 3 non-collinear points. So I could use ABE, I could use BDE, but they have to be 3 non-collinear points, okay? All right, now, intersection, okay? Intersection is the set of points 2 geometric figures have in common, all right? I have this line L and I have this line M. They intersect at point P. So this right here is considered my point of intersection. Okay, that's my intersection. It's what they share. That point P is part of line L. It's also part of line M. They share that point. When you have 2 planes that intersect, okay, here's 2 planes, plane A and plane B. When they intersect each other, their intersection is a line. Okay, this line is shared by both of those planes. It lies in the purple plane, it lies in the white plane. It's part of both of them. It's their intersection. So everything on that line is common to both. Okay, that's what intersection is. All right, now in your homework, they're going to give you descriptions and they're going to ask you to draw. They can describe things in a whole lot of different ways. I'm going to show you as many as I can. Okay? And sometimes what they give you is kind of confusing, so you kind of have to break it up into pieces, okay? So like here they say line AB and line CD intersect at point E. And then it gives you the coordinates for A, B, C, and D. And then it says that F is coplanar with these points, but not collinear, okay? So, first thing I see is that they give me points. So I'm going to grab some graph paper, and I am going to graph these points, okay? It says that A is located at -2, 4, and B is located at 0, -2. D is located at -3, 0, and D is located at 3, 3, Then it says I have line AB and line CD. So now I need to draw line AB and line CD. Now, this doesn't draw very well, so I did pretty good last hour. Okay, so there's that line. And there's that line. So I've got line AB and line CD. What do they say about their intersection? It intersects at E. So then you would mark this right here as E. Okay? Now, it then says that point F is coplanar with these points, but not collinear with line A, B, or CD. What does that mean?
It's outside.
Okay, it cannot be in their path, right? Okay, so F could be anywhere as long as it was not in the path of those two lines. Because it's coplanar, which means it's on the plane, but it's not collinear. Okay? Alright. Okay, on this one it says line QR intersects plane T at point S. Okay, now, a line can intersect a plane or it can lie on the plane. If it said that it lied on the plane, it would be like this. But if it intersects the plane, it is like this. Okay, do you see the difference? Okay, so this one says that line QR intersects plane T at point S. So we've got a plane, and we'll name it T. Funny looking T in it. And it says that QR intersects that plane. So that means that it goes through it. Now, to show that it goes through it, I'm going to draw a line to here, and then I'm going to draw a dotted line. And you draw a dotted line when what you're drawing is behind it. Okay, so that indicates that it's going through it. If I drew a solid line, I would think it was lying on it. So you go here, and it intersects here at point S, and then this is line QR, so I need to put a Q on there somewhere, and an R on there somewhere. So now I have line QR intersects plane T at point S. And one thing I want you to encourage you to do is read what the description is, draw a picture, and then reread it to make sure your picture matches. Because sometimes even I've had to redraw it because what I thought it was not necessarily the case. Paul? Okay. Now, we've been talking about these definitions, and we talked at the beginning about what undefined terms were, okay? And sometimes what we do is we use those undefined terms to define other things, okay? So when we talk about some different definitions, we'll be using the point, the line, and the plane. Space is what we live in, okay? It's a three-dimensional set of all points. It contains lines and planes, points and lines and planes, actually, okay? So our space that we live in contains all of those things. All right. Picture the following according to the figure at the right. How many planes appear in this figure? What do you think? I heard 4. You may think I heard 5. I heard 1, 2. I don't have to say that. Okay. One thing I want you to realize is this base right here, it actually lies on this big plane P. Okay? So like here is the base, it lies on this plane. That's one plane. Both of those together is one because it lies on it. Okay? So there is one, and then you got 3 faces of your pyramid, your triangular pyramid. So what do you think the answer is? It's going to be 4. Name 3 points that are collinear. What does it mean to be collinear? On the same line. So 3 points that are collinear. S, E, and H. Okay. Could I have another one there? D, G, and B. I could use that too, couldn't I? D, G, and B. So either one, any of those would work. Okay. Are points G, A, B, and E coplanar? Okay, G, A, E, and B. Are those coplanar? Some people say yes. Okay, let's look at this. Okay, here is A on this plane. Here is B. and then you've got a line going through it. Okay, so that E lies on this pink plane, but where's G? Up here, right? So where this little pink thing is right here, sticking out, that's G. So you've got A, B, and then the line's going through, so it intersects here at E, but G is up here. So are all four of those in the same plane? No. The A, B, and E are, but G is out by itself. It's hanging out in space somewhere, okay? Huh? The 3 points would be, A, B, and E would be coplanar, but G is in a different plane. And you know what? G is in the same plane as A and B, okay? But then E would be different, okay? So, my answer would be no. And you could make this and do this in a couple of ways. A, B, and E are in the same plane, but G is not. Okay, last one. Where do line EF and plane P intersect? Line EF and plane P, where do they intersect? Intersect that. Okay, questions on what I talked about there? All right, I want to show you one other thing, and this is on page 13 in your book, okay? Remember how I told you they were going to give you descriptions and you had to draw a picture, right? Sometimes they describe them in different ways. For example, these are some examples. I won't go through all of them. But like, here is line L, and then you've got this point Q that's on there. They could describe this in 3 different ways. They could say point Q is on line L. They could say line L contains point Q. Line L passes through point Q, or plane Q. Okay? 3 different ways to describe that same thing. Look at this one. Here you've got plane N, and you have line M that's intersecting that plane, and then you have line L that lies on that plane. Okay? So you could say line L and point R are in plane N. You could say point R lies in plane N. Plane N contains point R and line L. Do you see how you can say it in different ways? Okay? You can say point P is the intersection of M with plane N. What kind of lines are M and L? Well, actually they don't intersect because it's like this. You've got one going through it and you've got one line on it like this. Y'all know what those kind of lines are called? You know what these kind of lines are called? What are they called? Parallel. What's this called? Perpendicular would only be if they intersected to create a right angle. Even if I was like this. These lines do not intersect, but they're not in the same plane. Because one of them's on the plane, one of them's going through the plane. You know what that's called, anybody? Starts with an S. Skew. Have you ever heard of that before? Skew lines? Okay. Those are skew lines. So you can even say that. You know, there's a lot of different things you can say there. Here are 2 planes that are intersecting. Plane P and plane Q. Their intersection is line AB. So, you know, here's some different things that they could say. Line AB is in plane P and plane Q. You could say AB is the intersection of plane P and plane Q. They could describe it in a lot of different ways, so you might want to look over that when you're doing your homework, okay? Any questions? All right, your assignment is on page 8. It's on the board.